Welcome back, baseball fans, to the 69-70, 71-72 Carryover League Draft Prep. And tonight we are going to do episode 1 of the Hot Stove League. Number 1, Trade Talks. And what we have here, folks, this is the 1969, 70, 71 to Carryover League. You saw these in the Summer League. More of these guys, because 8 players who are in the Summer League from 1984, 8 per team, have been removed. So you have 12 players on 32 teams is 384. So normally the league would be about this big. So 256 guys will be drafted from the years 69, 70, 71, 72. 2 per year per team before the league starts. And the cards are in draft order. If this is the beginning, it's easier to do it this way, left to right like that, because of the way the screen is. If you look here at the very end, that was the Orioles, winners of the World Series. And then the Reds, the runners-up. The first overall pick in the draft belongs to the California Angels. And then Las Vegas, an expansion team, has second. San Diego has the third pick. And Milwaukee, who won 5 out of their last 7 games, played themselves out of the first overall pick in the draft by getting into a late winning streak at the end of the year. And so there you have it. Teams drafting 1 overall to 32. One of the rules I set up with in the draft order was that a league could not have 3 consecutive teams in a row. So the most you can have would be 2. And I'll show you that. It's California's American League, Vegas and San Diego National League. Then back to American League with Milwaukee. Then St. Louis and Florida, so now you have to have an American League team. The Expos, then the Blue Jays, then you have to need a National League team. Arizona, the White Sox, the Mariners, then you need a National League team. Portland, then you have the Yankees and the Phillies and the Red Sox. Now you're alternating here. The Mets, the Pirates, the Indians, the Astros. And when you get to the final 12, those will all be playoff teams. So after the Astros, it's Ohio. And then these are the 12 playoff teams, starting with lucky Kansas City, because of winning percentage, they get the 21st pick. The Cubs from the National League, and the Braves. Then back to the American League, again the Rangers, a very lucky team, they get to pick early. The Dodgers, who were in the World Series 2 years ago, but fell out of favor to the Giants. The Twins, who we thought were really going to make a run in this, they fell short. The Miracle Rockies, who came out of nowhere and stunned a lot of teams. The defending world champion Tigers just couldn't put it together, trying to get a repeat. And then the 4 teams in the championship series, the A's, at the beginning of their dynasty, the Giants, who were better than the Dodgers in the West, and of course the Reds, the Orioles. So, Hot Stove League Chat 1 begins, as that there is a rumor going around that a very special player is on the trading block. And the team making the deal is going to be found right here. And the team, the player that's on the trading block, the Texas Rangers, first of all, they own the rights to Nolan Ryan, which they are going to trade away. They own the rights to Buddy Bell. They're going to trade that away. But the player on the block, yes, folks, here he is, your American League Most Valuable Player, Frank Howard. He has a year like this in 1970, and then after that, he has more normal years with like 20 home runs. History suggests that Howard finished his career with Detroit. So, believe it or not, the Rangers are taking calls, and I've discovered 3 teams who would be interested. And the 3 teams making calls are this team and this team from the American League and a team that wants to win the 1969 World Series in the National League. Now let's start with the Tigers. Now the Tigers, they have Roseboro, Freehand, Norm Cash is their first baseman, and they have Horton, Northrup, and Kaline all in the outfield. They kind of have a log jam at the corner outfield catching positions, and it doesn't seem like a perfect fit unless you consider that Andre Thornton was a right-handed hitting DH last year with 33 home runs. So Frank Howard would replace Andre Thornton on this team. The question is, the problem with Detroit is, we know they're going to add in the infield here, they're going to add Dick McAuliffe at second. We're not sure who they're going to add at third and short yet. And they have McLean, Lolich, Coleman, Reed, Keeley, and Hiller. So who do they dangle? Who on earth do you put up for a trade for Frank Howard? I have one player to get the phone call started, and that is Denny McLain. And the reason I would offer Denny McLain is that he was 24-9 with a 2.80 ERA on the rotation, and the problem, though, is that after 69, after this 1 year, his career starts to wane a bit, whereas Frank Howard, he has another amazing year in 1970. So imagine if Denny McLain wasn't a Tiger. Let's put him on the side for a second. You'd still have these 2 guys at the top of your rotation. Lolich and Coleman both go on the rotation. Starters 8s and 9s. And you have Hiller as your new closer to replace Willie Hernandez. It's an interesting idea. The problem I see, though, is that Detroit might just not have enough resources to make that deal when they're losing so much talent from 1984. Remember, they're losing Lou Whitaker, Jack Morris, Alan Trammell, Willie Hernandez, players who played in the 1984 World Series. So that's an interesting idea. Next, let's go to Minnesota. The Twins. They have catcher, first, second, third, short. They have a ton of offense. And they have the beginnings and ends of a pitching rotation. Number 1 and 2, righty-lefty, and the back end righty-lefty. Okay, so in this offense, Rich Reese, he gets to play first base now, replacing Ken Urbick. However, if you wanted to get Killebrew into a position, first base would be a better position. So you could trade Rich Reese. You could also trade Rich Reese, who only has 1 more good year. This is the last year he's really this good, to Portland to free up Bert Blyleven. So he is on the trade block. Could you imagine, just for a moment, because Tovar can play third base or the outfield, could you imagine, just for a moment, I've got to put these guys next to each other. How would you feel about these 2 guys in your lineup? If you're the Minnesota Twins. That's 97 home runs. And Howard, Killebrew would be first. Howard would be your DH. Or you could put Howard in the outfield, believe it or not, on the Twins, as they have Tovar would be third base, and Tony Oliva would be in right field. So it seems like a pipe dream, and probably having to give up too much for that to happen. But it's definitely for consideration there. All right, and the last team from the National League, the New York Mets. We know they have the pitching. Could you imagine Frank Howard on this team? Let me just pull his card out for a second and see how it can work. All right, so here are the Mets. Let's start with the pitching. They have a ton of hitters. They only have 3 pitchers. The good news is they're probably the 3 best pitchers they're going to want to need. And the first pick from 1972 will be John Matlack. Let me bring up Matlack's numbers really quickly here if I can. Let's see. So Matlack's 72 year. Let me just bring this up on Baseball Reference while I'm doing this. Yeah, he's got a 2.32 ERA and a .117 WHIP in 72. So it's going to be Seaver, Koosman, Matlack, and McGraw. So there's going to be your 3 lefties. Then you just need 4 Jags, basically. I mean, the pitching staff is great with those 4 guys. Then it could be great or amazing, depending on who the 4 guys are. One interesting thing about having 2 lefties, this is Matlack and Koosman, is that if the Cincinnati Reds are making a National League run to the World Series again, the Reds lost the World Series to the Orioles when in 4 straight, because the Orioles started Mike Cuellar twice and Dave McNally once. So 3 of those 4 losses by the Reds were to left-handed pitchers. So that could be the advantage the Mets have over the Mets, is Koosman and Matlack. Not to mention some guy named Tom Seaver is also amazing. All right, so getting back to the offense, Grody's of probably no interest to Texas, or Pat Corrales. Now, obviously, you'd have no need for Clendenon anymore. And they also have Ed Kranepool, who can also play outfield and first. You would have no interest for either of these guys anymore if you had this guy. Now, the question is, come on, you can't trade these 2 guys for Frank Howard. Sorry, that's just not fair. And imagine having A.G., Cleon Jones, and Frank Howard together. It's kind of tantalizing, and Howard could get you over the top. However, I would say for the big guy, Clendenon's numbers, he had 22 homers. If you put these 2 guys' numbers together, it's pretty close, really. 280 something with 30 home runs, but that's in 800 plate appearances, though. So Clendenon, Kranepool, and it'd have to be something else. And frankly, I would say you're not getting rid of AG or Cleon Jones. And the other incidentals are like Joe Foy, who was a Met. This is a real tough one here, as the Mets might, if there's somebody they could draft and trade, or dare say it, would they even consider trading John Matlack for Frank Howard? Because he's not even on the team yet. 1972 John Matlack for Frank Howard. And then, if you did that, you'd have to liquidate. Well, I guess you could actually put. You got an outfield spot open. You could actually. Yeah, you've got a center fielder and a left fielder. Frank, He can play right field. I didn't think about that. Let's say you hold on to Cleon Jones and Cranepool. The only problem I see for the Mets is that don't have a lot of left-handed hitters, and you'd like to have a balance. It could very well be a pipe dream for Frank Howard going to the Mets. And between the three teams I discussed, don't know quite how to handicap that yet. It's a tough one to handicap. So, with that, we'll conclude the first edition of the Hot Stove League, as we got our feet wet with it. I brought up three teams. If you have any ideas of players you recall from the from the Summer League you think might be cool for a trade, feel free to chime in the comment section. You know, obviously I'm not going to trade Hall of Famers from their teams like Johnny Bench is not going to get traded, or you know, Brooks Robinson, or you know what I mean. But all guys who moved around baseball. Frank Howard played for, as I bring him up again, Frank Howard did play for the Dodgers, the Senators, the Rangers, and Detroit. So it's conceivable that he would be traded one more time. So that's why I brought him up. All right, well, thanks for checking out Hot Stove number 1. I will see you on the Hot Stove coming up.